Hello and welcome to a new episode of our Tech Talk. Yeah, finally we are live, so we had to postpone this episode, but now we can have a look under the hood a little bit, what's going on in the background on the developer side. So I'm looking really forward what our guests present today because I just know the headlines. But before we start, please give us a like on the show, subscribe to the channel and press the bell button so that you don't miss this show in future. And then I would like to welcome our three guests today, U-Zyn, YC and Prasanna. Thanks for joining and giving us some details, what you are doing and what will come in the future of DeFiChain.
Hey everyone, yeah, thanks DZ for having us again on the show. The last one's been a while. Yeah, I know the crypto market is not looking as good as it was in the last show, but I mean, when crypto market is down, it's build time, and so perfect time for us to focus on building stuff and delivering more great stuff for DeFi chain. And yeah, so for us for today's tech talk, we're gonna share some updates on DeFi Meta Chain because developers have got working hard on that on DeFi Meta Chain. I'm gonna give some updates on that, what it's gonna look like, how does it work, and things like that. And then Prasanna is going to give updates on the native side of DeFi Meta Chain, so the blockchain updates. The team is working hard, shipping a lot of updates, especially the dUSD updates. Prasanna will give some details on that. And last but not least, YZ is going to give updates on the product updates and timelines, on key timelines of what we're looking forward to on DeFi chain side. And then we'll wrap up the show. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. DZ will flash it to us and we will hopefully answer them.
Cool. Then I would say we jump into the content. We switch the screen because you all prepared nice stuff for today. And I have to select your screen. U-Zyn, you can start.
All right. Hey. So, yep. So, for those of you who have been following us for a while, you know what's coming up. DeFi Meta Chain. It's the EVM support on DeFi chain. So DeFi chain has always been native. It's a Bitcoin fork. So the way that it does is uh, DeFi is done through consensus, but I mean the upside is that it's very secure, very safe. You can only do certain things on DeFi chain. But as time goes, the trend, a lot of people want to build stuff on DeFi chain, especially with D stocks and D token. You want to be able to interact with that. So a lot of requests from the community to have EVM support, filtering complete support, in a way that is safe, that doesn't interfere on the native side. The team is working hard last few months, working on DeFi Meta Chain. There's a lot more clarity now on how that will look like. The goal is to try to ship it this quarter. We're in Q3 already, so this quarter we should be looking at DeFi Meta Chain launch in Q3 this quarter on DeFi Chain. So from then on, I think DeFi Chain. Hopefully, we will see an explosion on DeFi Chain because as you see a lot of DeFi support on blockchain that doesn't really have EVM, they take a while to get to a certain stage. And then once you have EVM, you could see a huge trajectory on the uptake on dApps and things that people build. And naturally, that brings also the correlation to the price as well. I mean, I don't really want to talk about the price, but I just want to lay down on some of the things that I observed and saw on some of the chains that take on like full to complete support in the later part. So with that, yeah, let's jump right in. Yeah, DeFi Meta Chain. So just to recap from the last time we talked about DMC, DeFi Meta Chain. So DeFi Meta Chain, the goal is to have the native side and the EVM side done in a safe in a safe manner. So um, just a recap from the last time. So native blockchain, the consensus and proof of stake can work. It's largely proof of stake, retaining the original Bitcoin proof of work done in a safe manner. And DeFi Meta Chain, it's not going to have its own standalone consensus. It's done through proof of anchor. So DeFi Meta Chain block has to be anchored with the native side so that everything is aligned. Um, and that ensures that DeFi Meta Chain, the fact that Meta is there, is that it's part of the original chain, and also um, it it carries some metadata of smart contracts and all the things that you can do with it. And native blocks will carry the DMC block data. I'm going to expand more into that shortly. Um, and there will be no block rewards on DMC side. So you can't just mine DMC alone because it doesn't work. You have to anchor it with a native block. And there will be transaction fees on DMC side. So if you mine, if you add some transactions on DMC side, you're gonna be able to keep the transaction fee. So this is for you, for those of you who run master nodes who participate in the consensus part of DMC. DeFi chain. And also a bit of recap on how point and token work. So DFI and D tokens, including of DBTC and all the other tokens, can go across chains. They're not necessarily two separate chains. It just go across from native side to the EMC side and back and forth, right? And it's done fully trustless. I want to stress that it's not a bridge. I'll also explain why shortly it's not a bridge, even though it's going cross chain. Fully trustless, no special nodes are needed. Every node will have full visibility, and every single node will be able to validate the consensus of both chains, and every node has full trust on the system, because it's not about voting, right? The consensus of blockchain is not about the majority of the nodes say this is correct and therefore you trust it as the majority. Blockchain works by making sure that the consensus is validatable. Even you're alone, you have the data, you can validate this is correct. So this is the same basis that DMC is designed. And DMC as well, the token on DMC side will have ERC20 compatibility. I do a quote because ERC20 usually implies that it's on the Ethereum side. I'm talking more on the ERC20 standards, not so much on ERC20 on the Ethereum side. So if you have any contract that you do on Ethereum or on other EVM blockchain today, as long as it supports the ERC20 standards, it will work on the DMC side. So maximum compatibility with smart contracts up to date. Right, so this is how the consensus look like. There's some clarity now. So on top of this diagram, that's native chain, which is the DeFi chain of today, and the bottom chain is the meta chain, the DeFi meta chain that we talk about here. So the EVM part is going to happen over here. And how this chain is going to look like is that the native side will carry the data of the meta side over here. So the native side will still be the dominant blockchain that carries the consensus forward. You can't just mine here alone, because the way that this block is added is through a block on top. So the data on the native side, the block below will have to be compressed and stored on the native side. And when a client, if you run a full node, when you receive a block, you're gonna strip out the data on the meta side, and you're gonna extract it and then attach it to the blockchain bottom. And the bottom as well will have some consensus. So you will have to point to the block before, so you will do some sort of validation as well. So you can see that there's 3 types of validation at every single block here moving forward. So there's the original consensus that it has to tie with the block, with the previous block for native, and on the meta side, same thing. That's why it's known as blockchain. Every block always to point back to the parent block. So there's always it's a chain of blocks. And then on top of that, you can think of this like a DNA, kind of like a helix kind of structure, right? So on top, you will also tie to the bottom part. So the native side will always tie to the meta chain. So there's always a pointer that points to the meta chain. So you can see as triple consensus across the native chain and the meta chain. And this way, it not only respects the original native chain, because that's what we built on, it also allows for maximum compatibility on the meta chain side with the existing Web3 interface, and also allows us to ship, it allows the developers to be able to ship this in a relatively fast manner and safe manner. Yep, so on how token going cross chain, just want to express a little bit. So as any user on the native chain or on the meta chain, you are able to indicate you're able to submit a transaction that allow you to go cross-chain. So and this will be one-to-one. So there are no fees. I'm not sure if there will. There are no significant fees involved except the general transaction fee when you go cross-chain. So you can turn a DFI from the native DFI into the ERC20 DFI and vice versa, and the same for stocks token and everything that's happening on this side. So, and I want to stress also that it's not a bridge; it's consensus. So every single node will be able to process this on its own without having to rely on like a vote, like saying that this is correct or this is not correct. Like a bridge usually involves a trusted node to say that it happens on the other side, therefore I release the token. This is known as bridge, but in this case, it's purely consensus. So every single node will see the same thing, and this is how it's going to be. So therefore, it's not like two different chains. It's more like a chain that's attached together. Like therefore, the name like Meta Chain as well, right? And so on the usability side, so what are we looking at on the MVP? The minimal viable product when we hopefully when we go live this Q3. So I think the three key components for MVP would be clients, Explorer, and also the Web3, because we were talking about EVM here. Web3 is a key component as well. So the client, everyone's familiar with Like Wallet. It's the key gateway to DeFi chain today. So when MVP, when DMC comes out, the Like Wallet will have light support on DMC because it's not a Web3 wallet. So it will support viewing of DMC balances and also facilitate the token transfer or token transfer across the two different chains. So if you have Light Wallet when DMC goes live, you will be able to toggle or indicate you want this token to be ERC20, you want it to be in UTXO form, you want it to be in token form. For example, on DFI, they will be in three states of that token. For other tokens, there will be two states. It can either be a token on DeFi chain side, or it can be a ERC20 token on the DMC side. So the wallet will allow you to go back and forth. But then the question will be, how do I then use it on a smart contract? How do I then interact with a smart contract? But before we get there, a blockchain explorer is key to any blockchains that's used on publicly on the mainnet. So the explorer will also be made available as well on this because DMC is designed to be compatible with Web3, so it will work with most EVM explorers that you can fork from open source, or if any of the top name explorer would support, let's say DMC, hopefully Ethereum. Etherscan will support us. That will be a cool thing that we will have an Etherscan as well. I have no guarantee that. It all depends on whether Etherscan will do it. So it's going to be compatible with EVM explorers, and that will be really cool. On the client side, the key goal is to bring DeFi chain workable with most of the wallets out there. So for MVP, the team is going to test very hard against MetaMask. So we want to make sure that it works well with MetaMask and probably other EVM clients too. But the key testing interface will be MetaMask. And the way that it works, so we go from Light Wallet to MetaMask. How do you get from Light Wallet to MetaMask? So from Light Wallet, you will be able to export. You'll be able to link your Light Wallet to MetaMask that they will share the same balance. So a MetaMask allows you to interact with Web3 on dApps. You can let's say use it on Metaverse, for example. You can use it to do stuff with it. And on your Light Wallet, you can see the balances on the tokens that you use on MetaMask side. So this gives you confidence that it's one and the same. And if the things that you do on the MetaMask side, if you want to convert it back to the native side, you can do that on the Light Wallet side. Obviously, MetaMask will not have visibility on the native side. So the way that you're gonna transfer the token, you can do it on your Light Wallet on your phone. So so MetaMask will allow you to so you have to do some configuration on the MetaMask side. You have to add a network, but it's going to be compatible with Web3 and with MetaMask, or you can just add a DeFi chain here, and there will be some parameters if you have to add a chain ID and things like that. But it's going to work exactly the same, just like Ethereum, just like BSC, just like most other EVM blockchains. Yeah, so just to recap, user interaction for Light Wallet. It allows you to view native and DMC balances. It allows you to transfer tokens from native to DMC side and vice versa. And ability to link DMC addresses to MetaMask, allowing MetaMask to interact with dApp and Web3 easily. So yeah, EVM, Web3, and dApp compatibility through MetaMask is one of the key criteria and key testing for the team working on this project to make sure that we are able to do that. I mean, it might work with other clients, so it might work with surprisingly other things as well, but this is the minimal testing that the team needs to ensure that it works flawlessly with MetaMask. And yeah, so when we're targeting this quarter, we're already a day in this quarter, so we have 3 months to go. We're targeting a launch this quarter for DMC version 1. So there's not many new features on DMC, but already it's very exciting already. And we have user-facing clients launch around the same time, so that minimum MVP, we expect to have it around the same time. So that when this goes live, you should be able to interact with it already. And there will be more and more improvement over time. This is not the end of DMC, because we talk about other things as well that will differentiate DeFiChain's EVM with the other EVM out there. For example, automation that we take for granted on DeFiChain side. A lot of EVM blockchains do not have automation. So we gotta also look into introducing that over time on moving forward. So this is the MVP of EVM, but it's also going to go live on mainnet, because this is what we all need. We want to see people build stuff on it. We want to see a lot of innovation that the community could build things on it. We have a huge developer community now. Wait, what's going on here? Okay. Yeah, so develop for DeFi Meta Chain. So if you want to develop on DeFi Meta Chain today, if you want to prepare for it, start developing already on Solidity. You can use any high-level language that compiles down to EVM, to Ethereum compatible EVM. Solidity is usually the most common one, and you can use others as well. You can test on other EVM blockchains in the meantime. Here's Ethereum. You can test on BSC. It all works exactly the same way. And tokens on the BSC on the DeFi Meta Chain side, DMC side, will be ERC20 standards, which means that you can interact with DFI, Bitcoin, ETH, and all that the same way. And the cool thing will be D-stocks. I think there will be a lot of cool stuff that's happening with D-stocks. You can have smart contracts that interact with D-stocks. So some ideas. I think there's already a community project that's already waiting for DMC to launch. Therefore, they could then have an OpenSea store, NFT web store on DeFi Meta Chain. I'm really looking forward to that. It's one great use case for DeFi Meta Chain. So other ideas that community could build on: D-stock trading dApps, D-stock derivatives, and that would be really, really cool. NFTs, DAO, DETFs, that would be really cool, because we have D-stocks. D-stocks is working really, really well on DeFi Meta Chain. With ETFs, I think the community can come up with a lot of cool ideas on having, let's say, like tech stocks, ETFs, and things like that. That would be really cool. And prediction service, because there's a lot of these stocks. I think there's another great interaction would be like prediction service, allow you to, let's say, predict a price of a token at a certain date. In a way, it acts like a future. Also in a way, act like a prediction market. I think it's going to be pretty, pretty cool. So there's a lot. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more things that the community will come up with. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to all this. And yeah, to all the DeFiChain community developers, yeah, start building for EMC, even before the mainnet rollout, start writing some of these smart contracts. Oh, yeah, so this is not a video. It's supposed to be a video. I forgot to export it as PDF. If you're familiar with this scene, this is the Back to the Future scene. So you can right. Imagine the car zoom by. Yeah, there's a DeLorean zoom by and it brings the future. Let's start building on DMC. And yeah, I'm personally really excited about that. The team's working hard, and we're looking really good to get it ready for Q3.
Cool, really great. May I directly ask one question regarding this MetaMask topic? So
Yes,
we
yes,
will be able to link MetaMask to our wallet of the Light wallet. Is it the same D token on DMC then? So if I move with my Light wallet one D token on the DMC layer, will it also be visible on MetaMask, or is it a second
yes.
account?
Okay, if you so you're gonna have to convert the D token from
That's
account
clear.
on yeah into into the ERC20, and then it'll show on MetaMask. So you don't have to do anything else.
Yeah,
You just have to convert it to ERC20. So you can do that on Light Wallet, and then it will show up there.
right. Because there was another question in the chat. Are we able to link with our own current MetaMask account address? Um, I think then not, because the own address would be on Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, DZ. Yeah, you're right. You will not be able to link the current MetaMask
Hmm.
because yeah, it's on a different blockchain. I mean, there's possibility. Just thinking out loud, there's a possibility for, let's say, the Light Wallet to support the current address because it basically just a private key. So MetaMask can have a private key. You can import it over on Light Wallet. I mean, it's not a guarantee. Someone
Hmm.
will have to submit
Yeah.
a pull request for that to make it happen. But technically, it can be done. But right now on the MVP side, it's not. It's not. It's going the other way and not from
Mhm.
MetaMask into Light Wallet.
Okay. Maybe one question regarding security. So if I have access from the MetaMask to my DMC part of the wallet, I need a kind of private key or something else. Um, do you or do I have with a MetaMask also access to native DeFi, or is it another pair of keys? How is it handled? So is there any chance that one MetaMask account is hacked, someone will get access to native DeFi, or it's complete separate?
I don't have a direct answer right now. The team is still looking for ways to link this, but I did saw some discussion there. I think the idea right now is that there will be two separate private keys.
Hmm.
So when you convert it to DMC address, it's a new private key. So that when you export to MetaMask, let's say MetaMask get compromised, only the DMC part gets compromised. So your native side stays secure. So it's two separate set
Hmm.
of private keys.
Cool. Great. Thanks. That's all from the chat and from me. Then I would propose to
Thanks.
go on with the next
Yes,
topic.
I see.
Really great. I'm looking forward to
No,
this DeFi
Prasanna
Meta
first.
Chain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, just a second.
So here we go.
All right, thanks, DZ. Okay, so now on the native side updates, I think Meta Chain has everybody excited. So now the less exciting parts. So here we go. First is 2.9.0, which is Fort Canning Spring. Thanks to the community for coming up with the name. I think it's a very appropriate name at this point. So the upgrade block is set approximately around July 6th. So if you haven't upgraded the notes, please go ahead, update it. And the key highlights of this particular update are two particular things, which essentially came up during the special voting round, which is one is the asymmetric DEX fees, and then the second one is interest rate and liquidation penalty to be burned as dUSD. Currently, it's swapped to dUSD, and then dUSD again gets swapped to DFI and then gets burned. Instead, we'll short circuit it, and then there is an option to directly burn it. These are the key highlights, and then there are a bunch of other stuff as well, which is one is token split entries now will be a part of list account history. But in order for these to show up, you actually have to reindex from the point of token split. The official snapshots will be updated. I'm not sure if it's yet. Otherwise, by the end of this week, we'll update them to make sure that they include them. So if you just download the snapshot, all of them will be already there. And also for more reliable accounting, list account history also now includes a format optional variable, so that it always uses ID. Currently, token symbols are used. So then Amazon V1 and then what is the current Amazon, there will not be a differentiation. So the format one brings in that. So you can always use ID, so there will always be a differentiator. It's an optional one, so it doesn't break compatibility. So if you'd like to use that, you can switch to that. And then there's also another feature it brings in, which is DEX Live Stats, which is basically more detailed statistics into everything that's happening inside the DEX. So every single pool, what's the amount of swaps that's happening, what is the commissions, what are the fees. So all of them will be exported into the live economy attribute set. And so it's going to be a running count so people can monitor them. But to enable that, again, is a reindex, but it's purely optional. So upgrading to 2.9.0 does not require a reindex. If you do it, you will start getting these features, but if you don't, it'll just gracefully continue along. So yeah, that's 2.9.0. But going back to the emphasis on it, the whole the network upgrade came in because of the dUSD stability fixes. So now coming to that, the DFIP statuses of all of those special voting round. I'll just walk through all of them and then provide the status on it. Summary of it, every single one is now possible after 2.9.0. Some of them with a little bit of manual involvement. Most of them, the blockchain will already handle it in consensus. So 2206A, which is interest rates and liquidation penalty, burning in dUSD. So there's a new attribute there. So enable it, and then that's it. So that's enabled after the hard fork with 2.9.0. And then DEX asymmetric fees. Again, so now you have a fee direction as another attribute. It can be provided as in, out, or both. By default, if the fee direction attribute is not there, which is all the existing pools, by default it'll be both. So that's the one that will be used for dUSD as per the DFIP. And then the next one is dUSD, the DFI payback fee. This was always adjustable from the introduction of the feature, so that's already there. And then DEX stabilization fee, the tools to do this are already there, but it's not going to be automated in consensus yet. So that we're going to do it in the next version. Right now, the technical capability is there for the Ticker Council to manage it. And then same goes with dynamic interest rates on dUSD loans as well. And then finally, future swaps for DFI to dUSD. So that is ready. It's already enabled on testnet. And that the last one is the new attribute that enables it. But for the moment, we're still going through testing. So we compressed all of it in a short update. So we want to make sure that we get enough testing before actually enabling it on mainnet. Everything else is tested. This is still ongoing. So yeah, please go ahead. All of them, A, B, C, and F are all already there on testnet. And we'll set D and E as well just to test run it. So please go ahead and have a look at testnet. And if there's anything, so just raise it to us, and then we'll look it up. That is the DFIP status, and then next comes what's next? V3 and beyond. So V3 has been kept pushing a little bit behind. So now hopefully now that the USD stability parts are addressed, there's still 2 more pending. So we're prioritizing that for V3, which is going to be the automation of the previous ones that we just talked about, where a little bit of manual involvement is there. Manual involvement, but it's completely algorithmic. The manual involvement is just replicating the algorithm. That's how it's going to be transparently done. But bringing that on chain is going to be something that we're going to prioritize for V3, and that meant pushing a little bit further, which naturally it actually seemed that on-chain governance is something that we can launch on testnet. And so it gives a community a taste of it, how it actually works. And so they can actually understand it and go through it before launching it straight away on mainnet, because there were a lot of feedback and confusion about it. So we thought that was a natural path to take. And so what we're going to do with V3 is we're going to enable it on-chain governance only on testnet. and so people can try it out. So I'll explain quickly how the basics of it is going to work. So the key RPCs there, which we have previously covered, but I'll just touch over it. It's the create, governance, CFP, and then VOC, which is the vote of confidence, and then vote, that's used to vote by the masternodes, and then the rest of the ones are list. So the title is going to be, of course, the title of your CFP, and then the amount, payout address is the address that you want it to be paid out to. Context is going to be, it can be anything, but on the chain, but the idea is that is going to point to the GitHub DFIP or the discussions, whatever the context of that is going to be. And the context hash is a fully optional one, but the idea behind it is that once a context is there, if it's an external context, you can hash it so that anybody can verify that was never changed. But at the moment, it's optional because there are ways to utilize the context itself in an immutable way later on. But for the moment, we're just having these options there. And then cycles are basically the ones that's used to enable tranche payments. So by default, it's always one. If there are going to be tranche payments, all that has to be done is cycles need to be set. So yeah, I'll explain this in a little bit more detail, which is going to be the life cycle of it. I'll focus on CFP, but vote of confidence is going to be similar, just that the masternode, the amount of majority and all of that is going to change a little bit. So coming to CFPs. So basically the process is going to look something like this. Today, exactly the same way people create, they will create Reddit or GitHub DFIP. And then once you have that DFIP URL, you're going to now use create governance CFP, RPC, and then provide that URL in there, and then the rest of the details. And then on the next voting cycle, which is right now about 130K block period, next voting cycle, it's now enabled to vote. So masternodes can then start voting in the next voting cycle. So masternodes vote, and then what happens at the end of the voting cycle, once everything is done, if there's CFP has a 50% majority. So CFP, if you have a 50% majority, then the payment is automatically made to that address by the blockchain itself. Then if it's a tranche payment, the process just repeats itself. So as long as the cycles go on. And at any point in time, even if it's a tranche payment, if it fails to reach majority, that's the end of the CFP's life cycle. So that's basically it. Now, what I'm talking about here is the very raw way to do it. DZ will come in and explain, how all of this would be better once the tooling on top of it gets implemented. But this is on testnet. If you want to try it early on, this is basically the rough idea of the life cycle. And of course, as always, Scan will have help with all of this, and then remove some of these processes here, make it easier. So that's the basic idea about on-chain governance, how it's going to look like. And then, that's basically it. This is going to be a short update for me. Before ending off, thanks to the amazing community for this special voting round. I think it was a very important one where everybody needed to talk about stability, and everybody just came up. And special shout out to Yugi as well, who was the one who proposed a lot of the CFP, a lot of the DFIPs. So with that, happy dUSD stability and beyond.
Great. Thanks for presenting. For sure, there was one question regarding the dUSD stability. Who wants to say something? I also have an opinion. Someone of you, or should I answer that one? So question is, when do we see an effect of the DFIPs and bring back the dUSD towards the $1? Opinions?
Maybe you can go with that, DZ. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. I think that's really hard to say because it depends heavily on the overall market. If there are movements in the market, maybe we see no effect. If everything remains where it is, then we will see the effect, especially for the additional burning fees. So really hard to say when we see the effect. I think yesterday we saw also again a drop in the crypto market, and again the discount was increased a little bit, and it was because of the falling DFI price and not everyone was leaving the system. So there is no clear answer, in my opinion, when we see the effect. If you have a look behind the scene, if you have a look on the numbers, you will see that dUSD will be removed or less capital is leaving the system. But if you just look on the price, it's really hard to see. Additions?
Maybe I want to add as well. Yeah, so the with the hard fork that's coming in next week, it's going to implement almost all of Coogie's DFIP. With that, it's all designed to bring USD back to $1. Like if the question is about when, there's no clarity on when it will happen. But is it going to happen? Personally, I feel that it is going to happen. It's just when, right? So there's more USD will be burned because of the DFIP. So a lot of things it's being put in place to bring USD back to $1, and there is no death spiral in the DFI model. It's examined by a lot of community members, a lot of smart people. I mean, generally everyone's agreeing that there's no death spiral. So it's going to go back to $1. If when, I think it's going to be soon. Just how soon?
Cool. Yeah, no more questions. I think everything is clear. We are looking forward to the hard fork and then to the next version. And I think especially combined with the on-chain governance with some nice interface, a lot of people are looking forward to it. Because current voting around 20 proposals, and you have to type in all the ideas, make a signed message, and you have not one master nodes, maybe more. It needs a lot of time. So yeah, I think that's a big step forward to more voting participation. Good. Then hand over to YZ. And
Yep.
having
Thank
a look
you.
on what's happening next, I think, right? Roadmap.
Yes, just sharing some.
Yep. Here we are.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, hi everyone. I think I last spoke on the Tech Talk in March when I gave some Light Wallet updates, right? So I think similar in quite the same fashion, we are gonna share a bit about on the more of the user client side, what are the updates or what are the things that we are thinking about over here. So like what DZ mentioned, the first thing is on-chain governance, right? So of course, on-chain governance is a long and huge topic, but I think one of the key components to that is CFP, DFIP, generally the voting process. And so I think today I would like to take this chance also to share a bit about what we envision the user experience to be, and how it can help us, like what DZ said, two things, right? Number one is to increase the number of proposal submissions and also participation in the voting rounds. And number two, of course, is also to increase the quality of proposals overall as a community. I think with these two things in mind, I think it will really increase the quality for DeFiChain as a whole ecosystem. So again, as a recap to what Prasanna just mentioned, there are a few components when it comes to proposal submission. And I think that is the main thing, right? When it comes to, like, it is the impetus for everything in on-chain governance. If there is no proposal submission, then nothing follows. So looking at it, there are, I think, 6 primary components to that. Of course, title, amount, so on, that Prasanna has shared. I think one key thing here is point number 5, which is the context, which is a link to GitHub issue. I think this would be a very interesting component and also a connector to how we can bridge, really the more CLI type of interface to a scan experience. And I just like to share a bit of that. So again, I guess also I'd like to highlight that this is some ideas that we have, right? The team has to think about it, make sure that the user experience is really the best for the community. And as of now, I think the first iteration of what scan can be on-chain governance can be on scan would be a view-only GUI for community to view proposals and also to look at the voting process and outcome. So proposal submission and voting will still be via the CLI. Of course, everything is on chain, so naturally, all these things has to be signed directly. So, but what, and in this case, DeFiScan probably would be good to be decoupled from the process. And this is important also because if thinking about decentralization as a whole, many other platforms, many other community projects will also want to perhaps support the visibility and showcase the process of on-chain governance. So I think it is important for DeFiScan to be decoupled, and how DeFiScan then can support here is to provide support in command generation to simplify the process. So to make it as easy as possible for anyone who wants to get into this process, but have a little bit of barrier doing so. So maybe I can just share a bit on how the process would look like from a submission point of view. So the words might be a bit small, but just follow my sort of like my guide, and I'll walk you through the process from step 1 all the way to the end. In terms of submission, of course, it still should start from a submission of a proposal as a GitHub issue, right? And then what happens is then you can, with that GitHub issue link, you can head to DeFiScan's on-chain governance page. Once you're there, you can submit your proposal details, which includes several things like, the different components that was touched on earlier, the title, the payment address, and all that important information. What this does is, because it is in a user interface, it gives you drop-down fields, or it gives you, essentially certain input fields for you to type in, just like you're submitting a Google form, for example. And from there, you can click on a button, and then it generates the proposal creation command. And what you can do from there, from scan, is you can copy that command to your clipboard and then execute your command on your full node or CLI. So proposal then gets populated onto DeFiScan, which if you go through this process, all the proposals that in the end gets up on or gets submitted on chain, then also gets populated on DeFiScan. And how this works is then, in the process of voting, or even before we talk about voting, right? If we were to just talk about viewing the activities of the DFIP and CFP process, everyone can go on to DeFiScan and see what is the level of activity, what are the proposals being submitted in a single page. So it's like an all-in-one page. And even in future, we can even look at past CFP and DFIP cycles. So it's like also an archive of all the histories of DeFiChain's on-chain governance as a whole. So when it comes to voting for these proposals, I think the process, as you can imagine, is probably pretty much more simplified than submission. So step 1 on the left box is then you can view the proposals on DeFiScan. You could click on yes, no, or neutral, which is your choice of vote for that proposal. And what this does is it generates a command, and which you can copy to your clipboard, as well as just similar to the proposal submission process. And you can execute this command on users' masternodes, and this vote then gets reflected on DeFiScan. So if I were to bring everything together, what DeFiScan can provide as a user experience enhancement here is really to be able to see the overall activity of on-chain governance on DeFiScan. You can see the proposal submitted. You can see what is the timeline of the CFP and DFIP process. So at what stage is it at now? And then also when it comes to voting, what is the level of yes versus no versus neutral for every proposal? So it gives you a good glimpse of everything that happens on-chain. So this is some visualization of idea. This is not like the final version, but I think we're toying around with some ideas as to how it can look like. Just a very simple snapshot of one page here. So you can see, what is the current cycle, what are the proposals that have been submitted. You can click into them. And I can even imagine when you're in the proposal page, clicking into any of this, say 1 to 4 serial number, you can go into the page, which then content is populated by the GitHub issue. So then there is, it sort of like links everything back to GitHub as a single source of truth in that sense, where then everything is updated. GitHub also has timestamp, has edit history, so that we can make sure there is that traceability for all the changes that have been made to a proposal. So yeah, I think this is pretty much the idea for on-chain governance, which is the first topic that I wanted to talk about. The second thing I wanted to highlight in this talk today is the upcoming Google token split. So I think many of you over here are also familiar with the recent Amazon token split that happened last month. So it was a similar 20-for-1 stock split. So what that means is basically every shareholder of Google in the traditional market will receive 20 shares for every 1 share of Google token or ticker they own. So this means that, and in terms of timeline, right, this stock split will take place on 15 July, meaning the split will take place on the close of business of 15 July, and the split adjusted price will begin trading in the market on 18th of July, which is on a Monday. So why does it make sense for DeFiChain to also follow? Because naturally we rely on oracles for certain services that we have on DeFiChain. For example, decentralized loan, it calculates your collateralization ratio and so on. So it only makes sense for DeFiChain to also perform a token split or token migration in this case, similar to what we did for Amazon, so that we can make sort of like go through this transition in a clean way. So for the third point, DeFiChain will follow a 1 hour pre-split lock and a 2 hour post-split lock. So don't worry, I will share an infographic later on. But in this case, so on top of this 3 hour lock, right, all the Google Vault owners will experience an additional 1 hour lock. This is according to your vault safety mechanism. So nothing has changed here, nothing is special here. The only thing, I guess, if I were to highlight what is the difference between this Google token split and the previous Amazon split, is that Amazon, we used a 3 hour pre and 3 hour post lock period. In this case, for Google, we are doing a 1 hour pre and 2 hour post. So again, just to highlight to everyone, also to recap on what happens in a lock, or what does a lock period mean, right? So all subsystems interacting with Google will be paused in this period of transition, meaning this 1 hour pre and 2 hour post. So what this means for users and everybody in the community would mean that we will not be able to interact with Google on the DEX and on the loan feature. Simply put, there is nothing that you have to do as users, right? We all don't have to do anything. This transition happens. This is more important as a form of notice, so that you don't get you are prepared for when this lock period happens. So using this infographic to illustrate the timeline so that everyone is clear on what's going to happen. On the left column, on the left boxes, you will see the market execution. So this is what happens on the market. And then on the right is what happens to DeFiChain and your subsystems that I just talked about. So starting from the very top of the timeline, we have 15th of July, which is on a Friday at 8 p.m. UTC thereabout. What happens is the distribution from the stock split will be made to all Google shareholders, as I mentioned. Then on the Monday, following Monday, 18 July, at about 12:30 p.m. UTC, which is 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, the lock will kick in 1 hour before the market opens. So what this means is market opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, which is 12:30 p.m. UTC, the lock will start. So all these subsystems that interact with Google will be paused at this time. So at 1:30 p.m. UTC, which is exactly at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, when the market opens, when the split adjusted price hits the trading floor, the stock split will happen, right? And then 2 hours later, at 3:30 p.m. UTC, over here, which is 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, this lock will then be lifted, right? So all the DEX can go back to normal. You can continue trading or swapping your Google. Just one caveat here is that all Google vaults will continue to be halted again for an additional hour for Oracle price adjustment. So beyond that, I think this is pretty much straightforward. This is pretty much the same as the one that happened for the Amazon. And this will be further disseminated in the form of a blog post, as well as some Telegram messages, Reddit announcement, as well as Twitter updates, just to make sure everyone in the community is aware of this upcoming change that is going to happen on the 18th of July. So, yep, thank you so much.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to all the things happening here. There was no question regarding on-chain governance on DeFiScan, but it looks nice. Yeah, more comfortable, less steps, less manual steps, and I think it's also just the beginning. I'm very sure if you find one or other thing to be improved, optimized, you will do it. So a big step on this side. And token split, yeah, we saw it once. It's business as usual, maybe, hopefully. Looking forward. You are very confident. You reduced the lock time. So in best case, it's a non-event on DeFiChain, just on the Google side. Great. Yeah, nothing to add. No questions in the chat. So thanks for sharing the insights, what's happening in the background on the node side, on DeFiScan product side, and also DeFi Meta Chain. I think we have totally different directions, and on all fronts you're working and make progress. So bear markets are to build, and you are building a lot. I'm really looking forward what's happening, and just keep in mind where we are 1 year ago and where we are now. It's a really big step. I think people often forget it, what's going on. The D-token system is not a year old, and we are still working on it. It's a new system, and dUSD will come back to $1 as the last famous words in the tech talk today. U-Zyn, do you want to add, or Prasanna, something?
Oh no, just probably would mention probably the most stable token system that's out there, with all of the with all of the market data.
It's actually really true. Like looking at our D token prices for the last a couple of weeks, I think it's precisely what the design wants it to be. Like plus minus 5%. It's there. It's fluctuating, but it's exactly as what it should be, and it's tracking the asset price really well. I know dUSD is getting a lot of people nervous about it. Yeah, we should see what's coming up next week. We should see what it brings. I have high confidence that it will get back to $1 again. Yeah, we're building hard. Everyone's building hard. DZ is keeping the show running, keeping everyone updated about what's happening on the tech side, on the community side. Everyone's working hard. Everyone's building. Everyone's shipping. Yeah, when the market's good again, I'm pretty sure DFI is gonna do really well with all the things that we have in place now.
Cool. Now there was one question. Can I show it, please? Because I'm also interested in the answer regarding option trading. Any things you can share at the moment?
There's no concrete update on the option trading so far. The research as the earlier researcher Chi has done is that it's done the EVM version. So with DMC up, what we can have happen on the DMC when it's available, and once it's mature, once it's done enough testing, we can then port it over to the native side with the DFIP that the community approves that it should be in the native side, and we can bring it over to the native side. Yeah, for now, I think even the option side, I think is going to be really interesting as well with a completely flexible system that Chi has done there. I think it's nothing that we've seen out there in the DeFi space. There's a lot of limitation on the current system out there. If for those who are familiar on the smart contract option trading side, so DeFiChain, DeFi option, I think it's going to be really interesting. We'll see, but for now, we are awaiting for DMC to be up, and then a lot more stuff is going to start to happen.
Cool. Then thanks also for answering this question. Nothing more to add. Thanks for joining, for the participation. Great show again. I'm looking forward to the next episode, what's happened then, and wish you all out there a nice day. Stay tuned. Don't look at the price. Look at on the development side. That's a better view, and see you soon on this channel. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.